Hey everybody, it's Shauna and I'm here today at TryHackMe at the Metasploit room. There are several Metasploit rooms on TryHackMe. This one is the one that's just Metasploit. It doesn't say Metasploit introduction or Metasploit exploitation. Those are different rooms. This one is the beginner one that is part of the complete beginner's path. We don't do a lot of exploiting vulnerabilities on this one. There are other rooms for that. This is just to kind of introduce us to Metasploit and show us all the different things that Metasploit could do. So I am already up with my VPN, and I'm going to go down here real quick and I'm going to start the machine. And while that gets started, I'm going to go over here and just quickly go through the questions with you. So the intro, you just need to read this. It's reading comprehension, and then the questions should be done. And then we're going to go through this section on initializing. And the first thing that you need to do is, it might be different on Ubuntu machines, but on Kali, you need to do this in sudo, but you need to do msfdb initialize and enter that, and then put in your password if I can type it correctly. And yours will look different, your output right now, because I have already done this, but it initializes the database that's going to be used for Metasploit, and you'll understand that coming up here a little more. So after they do that, they want us to go to MSF console, and they want us to do -H, the help, so we can answer some of these questions right here. So while that's loading, we'll go on. I've done that, so that one's done, no answers needed. The answer to this first one is how we can start it in quiet mode without the banner. That's -Q. Once it's initialized, so this is initialized, we want to go down and just go to MSF console and go into it. And so that's just going to take a moment. And it looks like we got the goose today. That's cool. There's always a different image there every time you sign into it. So now we're going to go to db_status to see the status of the database, and it's showing us the type of database. It's a PostgRE SQL, and that's the answer to right there. So let's go on to task number 3. This is more reading comprehension. And so this one, now that we're in Metasploit, I'm in Metasploit version 6. A lot of people are in version 5 still. And I think that this was written in version 5, which will cause some problems later. So hopefully my video helps out those of you that are using Metasploit version 6. So if we type help, you can scroll up and you can see all this information, learn more about Metasploit, and answer some of these questions here. So the first one is, it has a very short 1-character alias. What is it? That's the question mark. Instead of writing help, we could have just put question mark and gotten all this to come up. And the next one, the answer is search, then it's use, then it's info, connect, banner, setg, get, unset, spool, and save. Those are all the correct answers for that section. So now let's go on to task number 4. This is another reading comprehension one. So just kind of look at this, make sure to pay attention to this bottom italicized portion to answer the questions correctly. The first answer is exploit. The second one is payload. The third one is auxiliary. Then post, then encoder, then NOP, and then load. So now let's move on to where we actually are going to have to do some things. So the first thing that they want to teach us is that Metasploit has the ability to save Nmap scans to its database and make it really easy for us to filter it and look at some of the information from it. So I'm just going to type in this Nmap scan, and let's see how this works. Now this Nmap scan, sometimes I've had it take up to about 4.5 to 5 minutes, so I'm just going to come back when it's done. But if nothing's happening for a few minutes, just hold on tight and it will come up and we will go from there. Okay, and now that the scan is done, we can answer this question right here. So what service does Nmap identify running on port 135? And we can look over here under ports and we see port 135, and it is running the MSRPC service. MSRPC is the answer there. And so now it wants us to just kind of get comfortable with Nmap being saved to the database. So now we could like put in hosts and it could filter out the hosts that it found. We could put in services and it'll just line up all the services right there. And then we could also put in vulns and it'll show us known vulnerabilities to some of the services that are there. So we have the IceCast header overwrite is one of the vulnerabilities that are there that they're going to be discussing a little bit later. And so now it's saying we could use the use function followed by IceCast and learn more about this. And so now the payload that it's using is IceCast, and it's just kind of wanting us to know that, but we're not going to be using that right now at this moment. And to answer this question right here, if you put in use IceCast, this was the answer right here that they're looking for. That's the name of the exploit section, exploit/windows/http/icecast_header. But that's not what we're going to be using right now. So now what they want us to do is they want us to search for a different one by multi/handler, and we see it come up right here. So the first question is, what is the name of the column to the far left side of the console that shows up next to name? So this is the name column. Mine's a little bit screwed up because I have it zoomed in so that you guys can see it better on the computer. But there is just this little hashtag there for number, for the number. So that's what goes there, the hashtag or the pound symbol, whatever you call it. And so what they want us to do now is they want us to say use and then that number from the previous question. So multi-handler for me is at number 5. For some people, depending on the version of Metasploit that you're using, it might be 4 or 6, but for me it is number 5. So I'm going to put use 5. You should put whatever number it is for whatever you're using. So now it is using that. And so now we need to set the payload. So we're going to set, whoops, sorry about that. Let me come back up here. So we're going to set the payload as Windows Meterpreter /reverse_TCP. And so it sets the payload right there. And now we want to set the listening host. This is who's going to be listening for the reverse shell to return to. So that's going to be our machine IP. And you can find that again up here at the top. So mine is 10.13.38.75. Okay, let me come back down here. And you could also, if you can't find it, you can just put in IP address to find it in another console. So let's go ahead and return to our previous exploit. Run the command use IceCast. Okay, so now it's right here. And one last step before we run the exploit, we want to do the set the RH host. And this is the one that we want to pull from and pull it back and listen to it. And so this is where you get the IP address for that one. This is the machine that we're attacking. We want to listen to that. And so that's the IP of mine. Okay, so now that we have all the settings in place for the reverse shell, we're going to go run/J. Everybody, the consensus is that run/J always runs better than exploit. So that's the one that I'm using. So it started the reverse TCP handler, but you see, this is a problem that I wanted you guys to see. I don't think it could be different because I'm using Metasploit version 6 and this was made for version 5. But when you put in the use IceCast right here, you know, we started to do this payload, the Meterpreter reverse TCP, but then it's going back to say use IceCast. And well, we started with the multi-handler. And so we're taking out some of the settings. And so if yours is not working correctly, you'll see that the IP address that it's trying to do the reverse handler on is not the correct IP address. It's taking it back to, I think this is the IP address of my home network. So I'm just going to enter out of that. And what I want to do is set the L host again to the machine IP. And so again, mine is up here. It is 10.13.38.75. Okay, and so now that that is set again, I'm going to try to run the exploit again. And so now it's working. It's sending the stage. The Meterpreter session has been opened. And so now we should be able to get it to work. So this is what you want it to say right there. If you run into the same problem I had, just reset the listening host, the L host. So let me go back down here and see where we left off. Okay. I'm going to run sessions, and it shows you the different sessions that are in place right now. And so right now there's just one session running, and that is the Meterpreter one that we just started. So now it's saying, let's try to go and get to see the different services that are listed. And this is not correct. This is not what it should look like. There should be a Meterpreter console right here. So what we need to do is we need to choose that session ID. That's what I got wrong there. So we need to go to sessions. Let me see if I missed that up here. Yeah, we need to choose the target session. So we need to go sessions -I, and then that session that we found is number 1. And so now we're in Meterpreter, and now we can go on to task number 6. Sorry about that. Okay, now that we're in task number 6, they're saying let's see, now that we're in, let's see what other processes are running. So if we go PS, we'll see processes. And these are all the different processes. We're not going to be able to do much with these in this room because we don't have the privileges for it. The ones that say dark PC dark are the ones that we actually have the privileges for. But again, they're just trying to get us comfortable with Metasploit and learning all the things that it could do. But it is asking us what is the name of the spool service. And so if you go up here, you can see, let's see where it went. Spool right there. Spool sv.exe is the answer right there. And the answer to the next question is migrate, then get user ID. So these are just things, some things we could do. We can't migrate now because we don't have privileges, but we can do get user ID to get the server name. And we could also go sysinfo to get information about the machine. It's running Windows 7. And so the next question, the answer is load Kiwi. And then let's go ahead and figure out the privileges of our current user. What do we run? We could run get privs to get the privileges. And there's not much privileges that we can do right there, like set time zone, shut down, or basically it. So the next answer is upload. The one after that is run, and then it's ipconfig, and then they want us to run the command run post. It's a little bit tricky because they didn't put run in this, but you actually do need to write run post /windows/gather/check VM. This is going to see if this is a virtual machine. Checking if the target is a virtual machine. And it is. This is a Zen virtual machine. Question done, and now they want us to try running this one. They want us to run post multi recon local exploit suggester. This will check for various exploits which we can run within our session to elevate our privileges. Feel free to experiment with these suggestions. However, we will be going through this in greater detail in the room ICE. So I'm not going to be poking through that a little bit too much. I just want to help you guys get through this room. So that is still collecting the local exploits. I will come back when it's done. Okay, it's done now, and it's shown this exploit, this vulnerability that's right there that we could use. And so let's go on to the next section. They want us to try forcing RDP, and to do that, we're going to go run post windows manage / enable _ RDP. Insufficient privileges, so we weren't able to do it, but they just wanted to say that's how you do it if you have the privileges. And so now they want to show how we can get a command line by putting in shell, and it starts this one channel, and so we see that we actually have a Windows command line right here, but it's within this IceCast header, so there's not much that we could do with it. But they just want to show that by putting in shell, you can get a command shell. So let's go on to task number 7. Okay, so this one right here about running auto route, it's important to understand that it can do that because we're going to need that when we're learning how to pivot from one device to another. Once you get into a device on a network, you might want to try to pivot to another device on the network, and we can figure that out by running auto route. So let's see, we want to get out of this right now. So first you want to put this in the background. So we're going to go Control Z to background this channel of the shell and put yes. Now that we're back to the Meterpreter console, we can run this auto route and H. And it's showing us the different auto routing right here. And so it's giving us examples of different scripts that we can run in here. And this first one right here is run auto route subnet and then the net mask. And so to basically recreate that for this information right here, the answer is run auto route / -s, and then it's 172.18.1.0, and then it is -n, and then it's 255.255.255.0. All right, so let's go on to the next one. So additionally, we can start a SOCKS 5 proxy server out of this session. It says background our current Meterpreter session and run this command. So again, to background, we go Control Z, and we want to background that session and say yes. If I can get my cursor in there. And so now we're back to the main Metasploit console. We're out of Meterpreter. And now we can show how we can search for server / SOCKS 5. And I wanted to show you guys because I get no results from this because I am using Metasploit version 6. So how did I get around this? So basically SOCKS 5 sounds like it probably corresponds to Metasploit 5. It's a version. So instead of searching for the entire thing, I just searched for server / SOCKS first, and I came up with these two things right here, which aren't exactly the correct answer, but I did find that they were in this auxiliary folder. So I just kind of reverse engineered and figured out that the answer was probably auxiliary / server / SOCKS 5. And then the last question is once you start a SOCKS server, we can modify the etc proxy chains config file. What command do we prefix to our commands outside of Metasploit to run it with proxy chains? And so I just Googled that, and the answer is proxy chains. So I tried to get through that as quickly as possible. Again, this is just to get our kind of feet wet in Metasploit. We're not doing too much exploitation in this one. There are other rooms for that, and I hope to do those videos for you as well. Until next time, you guys, happy hacking.